Testing, testing. I give up. I use that one. That one's not working.
I'll go make sure it's on, please.
Okay, okay, thank you. We're waiting. We're waiting. Anybody have a story? Yeah. Oh, clean one. Oh, now he's putting parameters on it. Testing, testing. Oh, oh. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you too. Are you coming in, Stuart? Oh, you need it. Okay. Welcome, welcome. This is the Conradina chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society. You can see by the board in back of me, we're running our meetings through May, and we meet here every second Monday of the month. So I welcome you. Man, it's great to see so many people in this audience. And tonight we have a very special presentation for you. Tim and Anna from Butterfly Flowers, and Jane is going to introduce them. But before she does, we have a few words from our commercial side of the house. I didn't know where you went. I have to say one thing. It's a pleasure to be here. Florida Native Plant Society. The mission is CPR, conservation, preservation, and restoration. And I just want you to remember that because you guys make a difference in all these volunteers that help us throughout the year. It's just wonderful. So now I'm going to give it to Jane to introduce you. Go on.
Yeah, my name is Joel, and she said CPR. I don't know what the right word is, but how many of you, this is like one of your first times or your very first time here? Handfuls of you. All right. I'm just full disclosure. You're going to love it, first of all. Secondly, you're going to end up being one of those people that just spends copious amounts of money on plants when you go to the botanical show and you meet Tim and Anna, and you're just like, oh man, I need that in my yard. And so there you go. If you need some practice getting it in the dirt, I'll give you my address and you can help me fill up all the holes that need to be dug. Well, my wife and I are co-pastors here, and we love being a part of this community. I like to describe our church as we are actually a compassionate ministry center that has a church. This is not one of those, if you build it, they will come. We love it when people come here, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to equip people to be effective in this community. And so inviting this space to be used by the Plant Society is just a gift for us in a number of ways. Because you mentioned the planting out here, for 10 years I've thought, oh, this is the ugliest front of a church building ever. And now we've got some beauty growing, and I'm really, really excited. So thank you for those of you who are part of that. And huge, huge applause to Jane for doing the work on getting a grant through the community or Brevard Town, Community Foundation of Brevard. And we had some other private donors as well. So we're very, very thankful for that. Secondly, I just want to tell you that besides meeting here, this because of the impact that we have in our community, we have what's called Growing Hope Boutique, and it is a free. I wouldn't call it a thrift store, but it's a free store for children's clothing. We partner with a number of agencies and schools for kids that are in foster care or maybe they've just fallen in hard times. And so we don't operate the store, and it's completely free. We don't operate it from a social work standpoint. We just open the doors, and but we receive donations of really good clothing or new clothing and diapers, and every time you meet, I think there's folks that bring stuff in to donate for that. If you're interested in that and volunteering or knowing how you can make donations, there is a little card out here on the Welcome Center. You can look at that as well. And we have right now next door. In fact, I'm going to run over there in just a second. We have a Caribbean music, the steel pan drum classes that take place every week here in partnership with the Brevard. Let's see here, Brevard Caribbean American Sports and Culture Association, BACASCA. All right, and they will be performing here on Easter Sunday at 10:30 a.m. I'm a pastor, so I get the freedom to ask. How many of you go to church somewhere? Oh, good. That means you keep your hands up if you go to church somewhere. I'm not talking to you. If your hands are down, I'm talking to you. Okay, Easter Sunday is the best day to go to church. And we're not one of those pushy people that ask for money or tell you got to come and give your heart to Jesus right away. We'd love that eventually, but that's not how we exist. We exist because we are people of we really love our world and we love the good news. And we're gonna have some really fun music. So come at 9 o'clock. We're gonna have a breakfast, and then at 10:30, come for some really great music. It'll be a great day. And then you can tell somebody, "Hey, I went to church," and they'll be so amazed, and your life will be different, and you'll be okay. You will survive. I promise. All right. Is that enough? Are you wishing I would stop talking now? Oh yeah, thank you. So there's these benches out here and these little stools, and we receive them as a donation from somebody else, and we use as what we can. And I was just gonna pitch them, and I thought, oh, these are make great plant stands. So I have one of those benches out in my entryway of my house, and it's filled with plants already. And so you can use it as a bench, or I just call them plant stands, and they're free. Please do not leave them here. If you want to make a donation, there's these little envelopes right here. We are trying to raise, we only have like 60 people here, and not very many of them are rich. And so we are trying to raise about $80,000 to put a new roof on that building over there and the next building over. And there's got to be a rich guy in here somewhere. If you just want to write a check for that, we will take it. But if you're not, if you're like me and you're just like, I will take one of those plant stands and give you $5 or $100,000, whatever, we will take that. Okay, so there's no suggested donation. If you want to leave one, great. If you don't, if you just want to take a free plant stand, take one. And I think that's it. All right. I'll be back. Sorry. I'm glad you grabbed that.
Stand up and show your face. So we have, especially Carl is not here. He does so much. Martha is here. She's hiding in the back room probably. She always does. Paul, myself, Luke, Richard, Beth, David, Karen, Jamie, Anne, Marilyn, Lisa, Joanne, Kevin, Terry, all helped out so much. And I want a big applause for them, please. Nobody stood up. They're all hiding. Thank you so much. I want to pass this around a little bit for this snack. Thank you so much. And I'll give that tool for you back. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Ready? Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Is this our thingy? All right. Thank you guys for coming and inviting us to speak today. My name is Tim, and this is Anna, and we are Native Butterfly Flowers. We have a retail nursery, most of you know, here in Melbourne at 82 Southwest Irwin Avenue. We are growing about 300 different species of Florida native wildflowers, shrubs, trees, grasses, and aquatics. We are trying to grow as many species as we can because we believe in biodiversity and planting a diverse ecosystem in your yard. We also do landscape design and installation, so we do most everything. We don't do large things, but we do the installs and removals as well. So this is our presentation we call What You Plant Matters, and it's because it matters to our entire ecosystems, to all the insects, to the birds, the bees, the manatees. What we use in our yards is very important. It's important to protect conservation land and natural lands as well, but we don't think there's just not enough of that. And so I think if we do create ecosystems on our own properties, we'll help encourage the life cycle of all these creatures that live with us. So know what you're planting. We have here just kind of separated 4 categories of plants in general. Of course, you have Florida native plants, you guys are familiar with. They're plants that have been here for thousands of years, involved in Florida with our native animals. And there are exotic plants. Exotic plants are just plants that have been brought here from somewhere else. They don't naturally live here in Florida or North America in general, but they're just kind of plants that people bring in and plant in their yard. And then we have naturalized exotic plants. Naturalized exotic plants are plants that have overcome reproductive barriers. They're exotic plants that have been brought here either on purpose or by accident from other parts of the world or other parts of the country into Florida. And these plants have decided they kind of like it here, so they reproduce on their own, but they're not necessarily causing any disturbance. And some of them, like we have Cupid's paintbrush that kind of grows along the roadsides from Europe. It doesn't disrupt any ecosystems that anyone's found. It's been here for hundreds of years. This is considered a naturalized exotic plant that has just kind of lives around. Then you have invasive exotic. So invasive exotic species are exotic plants that have been brought here from other places. They've become naturalized, but now they've become harmful to ecosystems, and they're starting to outcompete native plants and harm entire ecosystems. So there's native plants that have been here for thousands of years, plants that people bring from other parts of the world that are basically inert, they're exotic plants. We consider them non-supportive plants. And naturalized plants that spread but don't necessarily cause harm, and then exotic invasive plants. So then they categorize the invasive species into 2 different categories.
Category 1 invasive species of plants or animals. They have been demonstrated to cause ecological harm through research. So they're causing disruptions in the ecosystems on our natural land. And then we have Category 2 invasive species, where they are being watched carefully, they're spreading on their own, and they are not necessarily been documented to cause ecological harm, but they're predicted to, and a lot of times the Category 2s are moved into a Category 3 invasive category, or Category 1 invasive species. Okay. So there's biological invasion scientists that study these things, and what we try to tell people is this is the inversion curve that happens when you have an invasive plant, invasive animal, or invasive microorganism, or any type of invasive organism that has become invasive. They start off just kind of as a small increase in population, and that's when you can, if the scientists recognize that, then you could possibly stop it before it becomes a problem. So you try to eradicate it or study this species of plant for our purposes, that whether or not it has invasive potential. But then it gets to a certain point, and this curve shows you where it kind of tops out, where there's not much you can do about it after it's become invasive. So we always say the best way to prevent an invasive plant from coming and taking over Florida's ecosystems is to not plant exotic plants, because there's no potential and you plant native species. And the way they idea what possibly could be invasive is if a plant spreads from seed more than 100 meters in less than 50 years, that plant is considered invasive. And so the time scale can be 10 years or 100 years. And so what happens is you have a nursery starts to sell a certain plant that they like, that they found in South America or in a different part of the world, and it becomes popular. And so it's sold in this nursery and that nursery all around the state, and all around it's being planted around our conservation land. And the more that it's planted and the more that people like it, the more potential of invasiveness into the conservation and ecosystems it has. If it turns out to be a plant that kind of dies off in popularity, it could have been invasive, but it isn't, because not as many people planted it, and so the nursery stopped selling it over time, and it kind of just didn't cause a problem just because people weren't thinking that they enjoyed that plant and brought it in as much as they would something that's got a big flower, something that they really like. And so it may have had invasive potential, but it was eliminated because it wasn't as popular through the society. And a plant that spreads from rhizomes, if it spreads about 6 meters every 3 years, that's a plant to watch out for. And so we hope to encourage in governments to study these plants before they're sold in nurseries, especially here in Florida. So we'll go over a few different invasive species that most of us know that are not allowed to be sold here anymore. And the government has stopped people from selling it. So this one is rosary pea. It's a vine from Asia, very toxic seeds, and this is a Category 1 invasive species. And then, of course, Australian pine. Most people are familiar with that one. It's brought here as a kind of wind block for citrus fields and agriculture, and also a Category 1, which you cannot purchase anymore. Everyone's familiar with Brazilian pepper. It seems to be the most popular, well-known invasive, Category 1 invasive in Florida. Again, it was sold in the early 1900s as a pretty plant with red berries, and they called it Florida holly. Has red berries in the winter, so they kept planting it and planting it and planting it, and now we're in just the containment mode where the county and the states are just trying to hold it back from taking over everything. And then Old World climbing fern probably got here more by accident in the spores, and you can see how it will just swallow up our pine tree ecosystem. Carrotwood is another invasive species from Australia, like the Australian pine. This one tends to take over mangrove habitats and somewhat outcompete mangroves, which eliminates our fish nursery populations. Another one that was sold in nurseries, but now we are not allowed to sell it anymore. And of course, air potato, that one, like our southern kudzu, this one just kind of a vine that swallows a lot of trees and ecosystem. So those are species that most people, they don't like grab those berries and grow them and give them to their friends. They don't like to suggest, oh, go buy some rosary pea, because it's been in our knowledge that we shouldn't be doing that. It's been outlawed, these plants. But there are still plenty of Category 1 and Category 2 exotic plants that are invasive sold in lots of typical nurseries. Oyster plants, highly invasive. It's a Category 1, and it is sold pretty much anywhere. Any nursery you go to, you'll see people selling this plant. And Mexican petunia, one of the most popular Category 1 invasives. The Lantana camara as well, another Category 1 that you can buy in any nursery. But these have not been outlawed by our government, by the state. Mainly, they're not outlawing these plants that harm ecosystems. It tends to be a different list that they use to outlaw Brazilian pepper and air potato because they harm agriculture fields. So it's much more of a economic driven why they're outlawing these plants from being sold as opposed to protecting the ecosystem. Because there's plenty of Category 1 invasive. A lot of people like to plant fruit trees. A lot of people ask us this, can I have a fruit forest? And we're very careful with fruit trees because strawberry guava, it produces a lot of nice edible fruit, but it is a Category 1 invasive, and Suriname cherry as well is another Category 1. Asparagus fern, also a Category 1 invasive, and camphor trees. They're still selling these plants pretty much everywhere. Both Category 1 invasive species that have been documented to harm our ecological system. And now we have, well, in 2019, they have listed the weeping bottlebrush now as a Category 2 invasive. It's a close relative of Melaleuca, so it's really shouldn't be a surprise. It's the same genus. This particular one is the weeping bottlebrush that has been put on the Category 2 list. Will likely be moved up to Category 1 as we get warmer and warmer and less cold. It's getting more pollinated, producing more seeds, adapting. And there's other bottlebrush trees that are Melaleuca genus that will likely get put on the list as well. So there's a reason why certain exotic plants that are sold in nurseries are, a lot of them become invasive, especially here in Florida, but all over the world we have invasive species now because of our movement. Repeated blooming, they have all the same characteristics that we look for when we think of something that we want, like something that blooms easily all year round. That's a characteristic of a species that could be invasive. And easy propagation, you can separate it by cuttings and seeds grow very easily. That's another thing that people look for whenever they're trying to landscape their yard, something that's low maintenance. It doesn't take much water. It survives droughts. It survives inundation and heavy rain. These are adapted to withstand lots of different conditions. Where they're native to, they have a lot of competition, and it kind of keeps them in control in the constraints of wherever they're native to. But when you bring them into a new environment, where there's nothing has ever seen it before, there's no insects that feed on its seeds, then they become widely, possibly invasive. And a short juvenile period where they bloom very quickly. So this is just an introduction to some of the invasive species that you can still purchase, and that a lot of times are being planted throughout our ecosystems or in our neighborhoods. And I'll let Anna continue in talking about, does that one work? Yeah, cool. You want me to do this for 2 things? All right. National Wildlife Foundation. Virginia. My bad. Fun. I'm not. Seems like West Palm Beach has a lot of it in the Home Depots, and it doesn't seem to make it this far north. And over on the West Coast, we hear a lot of people are finding it in different stores, but not here yet. I guess that's yeah, no cypress malt. Right. Yeah, we like to use a lot of pine straw in the bed. We use pine needles as great mulch in bed. Yeah, Martha. Very weird. Yeah, we'll rake up the old mulch and it'll be red like maybe 2 inches into the dirt if it's been there a long time, so it doesn't seem good. Yeah. Yeah, no. Yep. It's a category 2 invasive and it's moved up from South Florida. It's been in South Florida for a long time, but in the last 10 years, we're starting to see it here. Um, it's hard to deal with. We try to keep it out of the beds and we solarize it when it's in, and you get the bonus of killing your grass at the same time. seems like it really likes lawn and it likes being mowed, and so I think having lawn is selecting for it, and that's a limit your lawn, and it'll be easier to handle. Just start inching your lawn smaller and smaller, start getting trails, build your beds together, and just create less lawn and more shade, and you'll have less snow. And it could very easily become a Category 1 and a big problem in conservation land if you don't know. It's kind of hard to deal with. Native Plant Finder. I don't have a thing anymore. I don't have it anymore. Yeah. I would stick with the FNPS one. We've been to a couple of them, and there are some random things that we don't agree with for our zip code, but like for Audubon. It's a national database, and so when you start getting specific and you really start getting down into Florida where it's so different, like the data they have, we need to look at the Regional Conservation Institute for Regional Conservation is out of West Palm Beach area. They have the best information, and you can find that at Natives for Your Neighborhood, which is a great website that we didn't have. You can just look up. Yeah. Yep. The Institute for Regional Conservation in Palm Beach County. Another question now? Yeah. Yep. Yep. The question is, what advice do you have for someone who has a lot of non-supported? Yep. Just start slow and it'll become. That's right. That's right. Mm. Yeah, yeah. Well, we have 3 species of hibiscus that are aquatic. They grow on the edge of the ponds. I'm actually surprised that it's not more popular in Florida with all the hibiscus everyone sells. So a lot of our native hibiscus are perennial, so they kind of disappear in the winter months, but come each year, and they like it in the edge in the water. Big flowers. Right? And we're always talking about these plants because people don't allow us to plant the trees and shrubs that block their view. So that's why we're mentioning a lot of the flowering ones because we know better. But you could also plant cupolas and cypress trees and just a whole layered ecosystem on the edge of them. So we sneak those in between when we're at a consult so that we can at least get some layers going on. All right, thank you guys. Thank you.